everyone, Zoe Soul here. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I am sitting here in my room and I decided that it would be really cool to make a little video to welcome you all to my page, as well as talk a little bit about, what this channel is about, how it started, and also I want to talk a little bit about the word witch and what that word means to me. With COVID-19 turning all of our lives upside down, I lost my job. I work in entertainment. I've worked in entertainment for many years. I was throwing and hosting and booking events, and I am here in Austin, Texas, and I had a bunch of stuff booked out for South by Southwest. Then that got canceled, and I had no work. And so I was forced to really go inside, figuratively and literally, and reevaluate what my priorities are and where I'm going next and what I actually want to do with myself. I realized that for the past few years, I have really disconnected from a huge part of who I am, and that is the fact that I identify as a witch. And what that means for me is that there is this very magical, spiritual, intuitive part of me that I wasn't feeding. And even though I was getting to do all these really cool things, it all was starting to feel sort of like I was on a treadmill and I just wasn't sure where I was going. Even though things were happening, I found myself kind of questioning, okay, but where am I going and what's the point? And feeling a little bit empty, to be honest. And so the past few months, I've been going inside and reconnecting with my artistic self, my witchy self. I've been performing rituals again. I have been connecting with my coven, who, I hope that you will all meet soon. And I've also been, singing and creating. And through all of this, I realized, I want to share it. I want to share it with all of you. So I already have a platform. I already have a YouTube channel. Why not bring it back to life and put it all on YouTube? That way you all can be part of the process. Because at the end of the day, I think what I'm really craving, and I think what probably a lot of us are craving, is real authentic connection and real authentic expression. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the word witch. As I mentioned, I do identify as a witch, and I want to talk about what that means for me. Before I do, I'd like to just give you all the disclaimer that I am by no means an authority. I don't claim to be an authority. I am just sharing with you my experience and what the process has been like for me. When I was little, I was really connected to nature. I would talk to the trees, I would talk to the fairies, I would create little offerings and leave them out for the fae and also for animals. And I was doing all these little rituals that at the time I wasn't aware, but was really spell casting and a lot of witchery. But I didn't know that, I was just intuitively doing it. And it wasn't until I got into college many years later and I started dating a guy who was Native American, and I noticed that he had this altar up, and I asked him about it, and he started to describe what the altar was and what it represented. He also talked to me about the 4 directions, north, south, east, west, and the energies associated with the directions, as well as the fact that everything on this planet is imbued with an energy that you can connect with. And as he was talking, I was getting shivers down my spine because it was this realization of there's something in me that knows this already, that is not being taught something new, but rather being reminded of something that I've always known and have always felt. And, I do have Native American in me, although I'm not sure how much, and I'm not sure, which tribe, but I do know it's there. And he did invite me to come and get more involved on his path. But I always felt a little weary just because I try to be very conscious about cultural appropriation. And so I never really felt completely comfortable diving in, although I did learn about it and I got to participate in some beautiful ceremony and rituals, and I loved it. But it wasn't until he and I took a trip to Salem, Massachusetts, and I got the opportunity to meet a real witch. We walked into this shop and there was this woman, beautiful old crone with silver hair. I mean, she couldn't have looked more witchy, but more than looking witchy, like as we started engaging in conversation with her, I sat and listened as he and her talked about their different spiritual practices and where they intersected and where they aligned and the similarities and the differences. And as she was talking, something just lit up in me. And I instantly knew that this is my path. And, you know, I never really, I had heard the term witch and I kind of was vaguely familiar with paganism, but it wasn't until sitting there talking to this woman and having this experience that I realized, wow, there is real magic in the universe. And I've always felt it. And I've always tapped into it in my own ways. And it wasn't until that moment that I kind of woke up and was like, oh, that's it. I'm a witch. And it was just a wonderful experience to learn that. And then at that point, I started diving in and reading books and learning more. And it's sort of like the more books that I read and the more information I gathered, the more it affirmed that I was in the right place. You know, I have noticed, and I don't know if you've noticed this, but it sort of seems like more and more people these days are coming out and identifying as witches. And I think that's really awesome. And I feel like the reason that's happening is because we are in this crazy place where the planet is basically in an upheaval. And she is, you know, if I'm 100% honest, she's angry. She is angry at humanity for not listening. And I'm not going to go into into an environmental rant right now or right here, but I will say that part of all of these people waking up as witches is that the word witch holds a very specific type of energy to it. The word witch has like a bite to it. It has this edge to it. There's a little bit of a rebellion under it. And for many, many years in history, the word witch or a witch has been feared. And part of the reason for that is I think that witches tend to be very comfortable going into the shadows and going into the dark as well as the light. And there's an appreciation for dark and light. And the understanding that we really need both, and that it's not until we can get comfortable in the mud and the muck and the blood and really dig in there and be in nature in all of its forms that we can have real communication and start to heal these things going on. So I hope that wasn't too esoteric, but I feel like if you're here watching this channel, I don't have to censor myself. So again, I feel like there's a whole other vlog that I could talk about. When you claim the word witch, it's my opinion that you're embracing not just the light, but also the dark, and not just the beautiful, you know, lovey-dovey feelings, but also the unknown, the shadow, and the mystery. And I feel like it's the coming together of those two that we can really begin to heal and alchemize what's going on here on this planet right now. Witches are not afraid to go in the dark. We're not afraid to be in the mystery, and we're not afraid to dig into the truth and the reality of what's going on in our planet, because that's where deep alchemy happens, and that's where real change and shifts begin to happen. When I think about what a witch is, I think that a witch is anybody who is aware of her own inner magic and her own inner life and works on gaining mastery over how her energy and her inner magic influences her outer world. And she uses that power and that magic to then interact and communicate with the forces in the world, because the world is magic, and so are we. And there's a resonance that happens when we come in communication and in harmony. And we can do that through spell work, through ritual, through dance, through song, through poetry, through art. But we can also do that through just getting still and really listening deeply from an intuitive place. And so I believe that a witch is anybody who does that and is really an alchemist. A witch is someone who is willing to take responsibility over herself and her energy and how that impacts those around her. And also at the same time, with the knowledge that it impacts those around her, can do it at will with intention. You know, if you identify as being a witch, it's not up to me to say whether or not you actually are one. It's really up to you. But I will say this. If you are taking on that title, just know that with it comes a responsibility of your power and your actions and what it represents, not only for you, but for the family of witches from here all the way through our ancestry who have claimed this title and who have also died for this title. So just be aware of that and know that, at least for me, the name holds a lot of gravity. All right. Well, I feel like that's enough for now. I hope you've enjoyed this. And if you've enjoyed this, I would love to encourage you to hit the subscribe button and then hit the bell. You want to do both of them. That's right. Hit subscribe, hit the bell, and that way we can stay connected and I can continue to make content and share my journeys with all of you. Thank you again. Bye.